And then the Senate making moves today on Russia, announcing a series of hearings and introducing a bipartisan bill to boost sanctions on the Kremlin in response to meddling in our elections. President Trump tweeting, "I'm very concerned that Russia will be fighting very hard to have an impact on the upcoming election. Based on the fact that no president has been tougher on Russia than me, they will be pushing very hard for the Democrats. They definitely don't want Trump." Joining me now is the anchor of Special Report, Bret Baier. Glad you were here, Bret, because otherwise I'd be left hanging here with no one to talk to.
I can hear you.
Okay,
I can hear you fine.
I'm glad to hear that. Let's maybe just start with a little bit on the president's speech there when he was talking about all the things that are being done at the VA, but also just the tone and tenor of the crowd. They seem to really love him.
They do. They did. And, you know, this was a VFW speech. So, as you know, it's a little bit different than a campaign stump speech. But for this president, they kind of meld together. And he loves that moment. He kind of riffs off of the teleprompter, does his own thing. And he went a lot of different avenues. But for the most part, the message was the VA, we're turning it around. We're changing how that is operated, the Veterans Affairs Department, and also honoring the vets in that room. I thought that was a really interesting moment with that 94-year-old World War II veteran, Alan, who came up. And the president has this deft touch with interacting with people on stage and kind of with the crowd.
Indeed, and this was definitely some of his best moments during his presidency. Also, I mentioned in the lead up to this, in the introduction to you, the president tweeting this morning about Russia, saying that he does think that they were likely to try to interfere in the 2018 election, but that he would be trying to help, that they'd be trying to help Democrats instead, which is sort of, I guess, not what the intelligence community said in 2018. I haven't heard anything different, or 2016. I haven't heard anything different about 2018, but it's an interesting way to change the message on that. But it also might show that there's some real effort, perhaps, by the administration to try to stop any meddling from impacting this upcoming election.
You know, Dana, I think that we, in the media, we overall read a lot into these tweets when maybe we shouldn't read as much as we read into them. Today, you heard the House Speaker Paul Ryan say that the president was trolling people with the security clearance.
Actually, if you could hold on a second, Bret, I have that sound, and I'll play it and then have you respond.
I think he's trolling people, honestly. This is something that's in the purview of the executive branch. I think some of these people have already lost their clearances.
That's the kind of thing that happens in Venezuela, where I was just recently. So you just don't do that, and I can't believe they even allowed it to be aired. Just to be honest, I mean it's a banana republic kind of thing.
So I'm conflating two issues there, though. They are talking about the tweets, and with Paul Ryan saying, look, he's just trolling them. But the White House does also say that the president's tweets are official presidential statements. So
sure,
I'm not sure,
when
do you know when you're supposed to take it seriously or not?
I know. I'm just kind of making a point here that I think literally that this president sometimes does troll the media and the left.
Certainly.
I think that he wants heads to explode. And when he says that he's really concerned that Russia is going to interfere in the election, I mean, that's exactly opposite of what he said in Helsinki. And that is exactly opposite of what he's said, kind of cleaned up all last week. So when he says that and tweets it and says they're going to be helping the Democrats, even though Putin said in that press conference that he was polling for Trump in the election, people's heads explode and they react, and then they overreact, and then we cover the overreaction, and then the people in the middle of the country say, you know what?
Everyone's overreacting.
You know,
well,
what's
then
happening?
I would just say, from a former press secretary's point of view, then is it the strategy to make sure we don't know what to think or what to believe?
I don't know what the strategy is. I'm just telling you that that particular tweet has on the Russia interference, and that he thinks Russia is really going to go after it and help Democrats, has really set people off as far as not only on social media, but reaction on different channels. And I think that creates its own vacuum. This president, more than any other before, knows how to control the news cycle, and he knows how to be the story. Now, whether it's always good or not, he owns the cycle pretty much every day.
Right. I always think that, like, you've got to figure out what your goal is and then own the news cycle to get to the goal. But right now, I'm not exactly sure what the goal is. The other thing was that yesterday there was that big story out of the briefing when Sarah Sanders said that the president was considering revoking the clearances. You heard Ryan and Corker talking about that. The possibilities would include John Brennan, the intelligence former DNI, James Clapper, the National Security Advisor Susan Rice, and Michael Hayden, and a couple of others like Comey and McCabe, who actually don't have security clearances anymore. Do you think that that was also something that he just threw out there for a little bit of fodder? And with the reaction today from many people saying this doesn't sound like a great idea or even very useful, do you think that that might go away as well?
I do. I mean, I think that that's probably the case. I mean, they may be reviewing it, but I would probably bet that they get to it's not going to happen. Some of these people, again, don't have security clearances now. Others who do are, you know, a lot of them are tapped to come back and analyze something one way or another. It's a signal to the base. I get it. These people are attacking me. I'm looking at it. I would venture a bet that they don't get there.
Yeah. And then so the president giving that speech today, Bret, he was talking about all the work he's done in the VA. I don't have time to talk to you about it today, but I do think that it's worth reminding people, especially those in the middle of the country, that things are happening at these federal agencies all across the board, including places like the EPA, where they're looking at rolling back the Obama-era smog rule, which would be very impactful, not just to the economy, but possibly to that entire region and maybe even for votes. I'll give you the last word.
All right, listen, we are covering the day-to-day, but there's a lot happening below the water. The iceberg goes pretty deep as far as what's happening with this administration. You know, EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt was controversial, and we were covering his, you know, what he was spending on this and that. He also cut $350 million in regulation and 300,000 hours of red tape, of paperwork, according to the Washington Examiner the other day. You know, stuff is happening. We've got to cover the whole gamut.
That's right. That's why you got to tune in to the Daily Briefing, Special Report, and watch Fox News 24/7 so you can keep on top of all of it. Bret Baier, thank you.
Thanks, Dana.